Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. Oh, that was Walter Winchell. This is Viewpoint. Good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, a program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. We're going to start Viewpoint right away with a kudo, and I really think everybody will agree with this kudo. You drive around the courthouse and you see all the work that somebody has done putting up all those Christmas trees, and there are a lot of them. Those folks, everybody, had a lot of people involved in that. So let's doff our fedoras in the direction of those people, each and every one of them who worked hard. And I think we take particular note of the sponsors, as somebody has sponsored each one of those trees. So God love them and Merry Christmas to all those folks who work so hard. Thank you very much. Mrs. Busby, you want to say something? Wait a minute.
I've got a P.S.
Is that all right, Jim? Okay.
I've got a P.S. I have the two gentlemen who are responsible for all the labor on the courthouse, trying to restore it to its original beauty, scheduled to be with us here.
Good.
In the next little while. So we'll get an update from them, too, on how they're coming.
Now, let me see.
There.
You're Swedish.
No, I'm not. I am a Norwegian.
Norwegian. But I forgot now how you said you expressed it in a little while. And I wanted that defined. Is that next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Yes.
All right. all of the above. All right. Well, listen, we have some very, very nice people and hardworking, dedicated people here. So let's just get on with the business at hand and introduce those folks.
Amen. And these fine people represent a fine organization called Habitat for Humanity. The president of that board is Mrs. Toni Reifsteck, a name that's familiar to most of Logan County, etc. And with her is the co-treasurer, Jamie Voyles, a fine fellow I've known for only about 86 years.
Oh, you hide it well.
And they've been very, very busy with Habitat. I know somebody else who's on your board, and so I've heard things about the background of Habitat and its history, and it's pretty illustrious.
It is.
Well, one of the reasons I want to say to our listening public, both of you out there, pay attention. One of the reasons that Mrs. Busby is familiar with Habitat is that her daughter was actively, and I mean actively, involved in Habitat. And so here's the tip of my fedora to your daughter's sense. We might just say we could be interviewing in absentia our good friend Leonard Kruzmark, who was deeply involved in Habitat for all those years, and he just lived, breathed, and slept Habitat. So tip of the hat to Leonard up there, way up there, high in the celestial areas, wherever he is. Find a spot for Judy, will you, Leonard?
I'm not in a hurry, though, Leonard.
So let's get down to serious business. Let's go back to the history of Habitat here. Can you? I'm not going to ask you to pin it down to the hour, but in the near past, when did that first start?
It started
nationally, I wonder.
Well, Millard Fuller started it in 1976.
So it's relatively new.
Oh, yeah, right. He started it. It started basically in Georgia. Koinonia Farms, which was a peanut farm and cotton farm. And there were such poor people in that area. In fact, I got home from the board meeting last night, picked up a book that I love, is No More Shacks.
It's going.
No more shacks.
No more shacks. That's his motto.
Well, isn't that interesting?
He started out looking at the people's homes in the area where he lived and thought, this is deplorable. And he brought up a person who lived across the street from a tumble-down house, and they were talking in a meeting, and he says, have you looked across the street? And the gentleman had never really looked at the house across the street and realized that there were more people living in that kind of a condition. And you think that might not be true in Logan County, but we have people living in deplorable conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's
true
what
today.
Habitat is.
As we sit here in this studio, that's still, unfortunately, but that's a fact of life.
It is, and it doesn't mean that they haven't been able to do better. It's just that some people don't know how to do better.
Well, there's that to be
And
said.
may I interject? This gentleman in Georgia and the friend that he saw, and pointed out the deplorable conditions. They didn't just go, "Oh gosh, that's bad."
Right.
They did something about it,
Right.
and they started this movement.
That's the difference between the men and the boys, isn't it?
Yes, sometimes it is. You see something and you take action to remedy, correct, improve a situation, and Habitat took off. I mean, it was obviously a very necessary service that they
Well,
performed.
don't you think part of its beauty was that it put in front of people the knowledge that this is happening. This is happening in towns and cities all around.
The other thing, it gives those of us who would just sit there and say, "Oh, that's bad," an opportunity to not have to take a back seat. We can be on the front lines. We can step up and we can swing a hammer. We can saw boards. We can invest in our community so that those deplorable conditions for at least one person, we try to do a house a year, one family a year, can improve.
And one family a year with all the homes that could use improvement might seem small, but by golly, for that family, it's pretty darn big.
Yes, it is.
And you can't, I mean, here you are, but the both of you, which one of you is closer to 29 in age? And I'm sure that many
She's known
of
you 86 years. That's older than me.
I'm sure that many of you on your board who are out there, as you say, swinging a hammer, have had their 29th birthday a couple years ago.
Yes, and that is one of those situations where you don't appreciate what you have until you recognize and give thanks for it, and sometimes that takes a little maturity. There are some really good young people out there who are working hard. We can always use more.
And young, we mean anything from 16 to 66 on above. So that's 66 is young.
Well, speaking of Habitat, if we don't get busy and honor our sponsors, we're going to be out of a home from which to broadcast. So, Mr. Ash, are you ready? You go right ahead and honor our sponsors. And right back live in the studios here at WLCN 96.3, high on the windy hill here in Atlanta, County Road 2250. We're talking about a subject which we all ought to have a serious interest in Logan County. And all of you folks in Logan County, both of you listeners, ought to pay strict attention. We have an organization here in this community that does just a tremendous amount of good for a few people, and it's very, very important to those few people that benefit from this, take advantage of the services that are offered for Habitat for Humanity. Oh, by the way, you have a cat we can auction off, too. Must be seen to be believed. Mr. Rice has difficulty with this cat up here on his keyboard this morning. Of a serious note, and I mean this in a very serious way, Habitat has impacted. Do you have at your shoulders an account for, since you've been organized here in Logan County, how many families that you have impacted?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I wanted to lift that up this morning because I don't think we've ever celebrated the fact that, number one, it's not just Lincoln, it's all of Logan County. We have 3 homeowners in Mount Pulaski. We have 1 each in Elkhart and Emden and Atlanta. And of course, then we have, I got to see what I wrote down here, 19 now homes in Lincoln that are paying mortgages. But we also forget to celebrate that we have 4 that have paid their home and it is theirs. No longer are mortgage payments to Habitat.
You know, it just boggles your mind.
It does,
really does, to think that here you are, a pastor's wife, and here is Jamie, an educator and machine man.
Oh, he's a lot more than a machine
These
man.
kinds of machines, not wash machines, IT stuff. And you build houses. I salute you.
Well, we build lives.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
the community builds homes.
Yes.
We always say construction companies build houses.
Yeah.
Habitat builds homes and lives. And that's and we have
And there's
we've
an
had,
important
built 25 homes. We're on our number 25. We've had 2 homeowners that had to sell because their jobs took them out of Logan County.
Yeah.
So 2 of them were homes that Habitat did not buy back. So out
But
of,
somebody's enjoying them, whether those people are in them or not.
Right, well, they own the home, and they're not a part of the Habitat
Right.
network anymore because they're not paying mortgages. Habitat owns the mortgages to all the homes when we build them until they are paid off. So,
I don't think I knew that.
yes.
That's quite an operation. That
Oh,
takes
yes,
some
it is.
Oh,
bookkeeping.
that's high
Yes.
finance. Yeah.
Each
You know,
homeowner
Jamie-
has a mortgage payment that includes their mortgage towards the home ownership, taxes, insurance, and then that little kitty fund, slush fund, in case something happens that they need funds real quickly for a water heater or a roof or a door or something like that.
And a very, very, really important spinoff from this is it helps a lot of people with managing, understanding, and knowing how to manage their money, which is a very,
do a
very
lot of
important spinoff. Folks, by no fault of their own, just by reason of circumstances, grew up without that understanding, that knowledge, and how important it is. And being involved with Habitat and the great folks at Habitat who are very kind, but there's a generosity to a fault. And so these folks have to understand that there are consequences for them just occupying that home. They have to pay for it.
Yep.
Well, and this time of the year, especially, I'm on family support, and I do a lot of counseling with them on budgeting and et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things is they get a sheet when they join the force of spring, fall, summer, winter jobs. And right now their sheet includes a thing, disconnect your hoses from the outside of the house because
Well, yeah.
you know what happens. A lot of us don't experience that in our life because somebody else, the renter, doesn't take care of that kind of stuff. And so you teach them how to maintain their home and all the little idiosyncrasies that go with it. So that's part of the Habitat family
And you
partnership.
count on volunteers to the physical work. I mean, you just can't snap your finger and say this happened. You have to have people come and volunteer and pick up a 2x4 and a saw.
And not just 2x4s and saws. I mean, there are those people who are comfortable in the construction piece of it, but we need volunteers to bring food when we have groups working. We need volunteers to come and just clean up. I mean, there's lots of little jobs that can be done that people who don't do construction can take part.
Yes. Well, I'm one of those who not very smart construction-wise. I do pretty good electronically, but as far as hammers and saws are concerned, my father left me out in the left field on that. But in any event, I do remember, by the way, this house in Atlanta, the day I came up here to help on that house, it was a hot, muggy day, and we were putting insulation in.
Oh, gee.
That's always fun.
I could not wait to get home and get a shower. Oh, one of the things we want to mention is your warehouse, and
Yes.
it's vitally important to our local chapter. So let's explain the workings of that, folks. Whatever you.
All right, so on Woodlawn, what's the address?
909.
909 Woodlawn, there's a building, and we get donations. And so people they buy new furniture and they want to get rid of their old furniture. Well, we'll come pick it up. And you have some construction materials or you have some doors left over. We do what we can to find appliances sometimes.
Big
yes.
item.
Lots of appliances.
Right now that I saw an air conditioner sitting in the warehouse yesterday. So if anybody needs an air conditioner out there,
Microwaves, you name it.
Well, it's very important, and people can go and pick up viable, workable merchandise.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, and that's the piece that sometimes people don't realize. Yes, we will accept your donation and gladly, but also we turn around and resell that back to Logan County. And so folks, come visit us at the warehouse, look around, see what's there. The stuff that's in there, the furniture, the mirrors, the pictures, the lamps, that all turns over. And so we have new stuff all the time.
And that money then helps furnish yet another home.
Helps fund the next home, yes.
And by the way, speaking of money, and that's always a good subject of which to speak, let's talk about financing and contributions, possible contributions to the Habitat for Humanity. Some folk can't volunteer. They can't go out and pick up a hammer and a saw. They can't come to the place maybe and bring a sandwich or a cup of coffee, which is very important, by the way. But there are a lot of ways people can help. So let's take either one of you, Eddie, Toni, or Jamie, who would like to talk about accepting checks.
Okay, checks, or we always have little fundraising things going on. But yes, we have quite a few people remember Habitat as memorials. We do also have people that remember Habitat in celebration of something great that happened in their life or something. So we do have folks, and we have some organizations that pledge so much every year just because it's a community effort and they want to do something. We have great support from Lincoln College. Kids help in the warehouse there. Lincoln University, we have young people that help there. Right now, we are on our third contract, for lack of a better word, with Lincoln Community High School, the building and trades.
That's a good idea.
They are building this house with John.
Ford,
thank you. It's the third house that's been built by Habitat by the high school buildings and trades.
Which is a great spinoff.
Well, it is, because every other year they will build a house. I mean, they don't do every house, but every other year we've got a contractual agreement that's what they're going to do. So instead of books or having to buy a lot and furnish everything from the ground up, this gives them the opportunity to have hands-on, learn a trade, and also benefit the community. And boy, do we have some great kids in all these builds that have been doing that. So I think the parents are almost as proud of the houses they finish as the kids are. But
Yeah.
Well, and rightfully so. You know, not every kid is bent to go to college. Some folks just simply do not have the wherewithal and or the ability to go beyond high school into secondary learning and college material, and therefore they need to know mechanical trades, plumbing, welding, electrical, whatever, the heating, air conditioning, just basic carpentry. So having the high school mechanical trades, for want of a better word, I've forgotten what they used to call it now when I was a kid. Yeah. But anyway.
Building and trades is what it is now.
Yeah, building trades. That was just the basic term. Having youngsters exposed to how to even measure is a basic trait. So it's being able to be a participant and a volunteer in that, it's a great thing for these kids. There's another spinoff about them learning about other people.
Yeah.